Hi, I'm David Kern. I'm a painter and I'd like to welcome you to this video. This is going to be a watercolor of a little landscape taken early fall, so I'm going to try and capture a little bit of the fall colors as they come out. And as you can see, I'm working vertically. So this is how I kind of like to do short studies, and it kind of keeps me moving and the water flows down the page. Not necessarily all the time, but I kind of like the approach. So here goes, and I'm going to start off by putting in a bit of the sky. I kind of like to make sure that I've got the general outline or the general areas blocked, right? So this kind of quasi horizon around the shoreline and a bit of sky. So I'll be using sort of similar colors there. Ultramarine blue, bit of cerulean blue. I kind of mix the two together to get skies and water, and I try and make sure that I'm using something consistent, both for the water and the sky, so they kind of work together. Of course, reflections of water are just from the sky anyway. And now here goes in a couple of key trees that are just turning. This is what the painting's all about. So I just wanted to identify those early, and I'm just putting in a little bit of land around it as well. You'll see I'll come back to that quite a bit, but at the moment I'm just trying to make sure that I've got the spaces sort of organized. I've got this running a little bit fast. This is running at about 3 times real speed. So what you're seeing is about 20 minutes painting, sort of compressed down to about 7. So I'm now with the same brush working in the sides, the sort of foreground forms that are kind of partially obscuring the view. That's one of the things I like about this scene. Using the same brush, as I say, and it's actually sort of an old synthetic brush that still comes to a bit of a point. More color going in, or more value, I should say, going in the main line of those trees at the other side of the lake. So they're keeping in the same program of trying to make sure the spaces are right. Here I'm working vertically just to, so you can see the brush going up and down a little bit, so that I can kind of perhaps create the impression of trees. And again, sort of now working on the other side of the foreground. So about now the painting's coming together. I can kind of see the general layout of the forms. I'm pretty comfortable enough to put in some really dark areas, and there goes in some of the side. As you can see, I'm using the brush to kind of in a kind of semi-abstract way to actually just create the forms, and I kind of work with what I've got. Now I've got a bit of the water surface going in, sort of using quite a bit of ultramarine blue in that mix. Sort of stiffening up with a bit of burnt sienna to kind of get those darks into the far shore. See, I've gone back in and put those darks in quite extensively, and if they're not strong enough, I'll make sure I go back and put them in again. So right about now I'm going to go down and get the rest of the water in, because I kind of had not worried about that too much, but I want to make sure I've got a decent water surface there, and you can see that I've done that quite quickly, and then just pulled out a little area where I can now put in some of the reds, put them in on the real form first, and then put the same red into the water. But now, of course, it's being put into a sort of slightly bluish base, so that will dull it down, which gives me something that looks a bit like a reflection. reflections typically being a little bit duller and perhaps a little bluer. Some light is lost always in reflections. Jumping around a bit, I'm going back to the sides now, just to sort of get some of the dark forms in down the bottom, which of course I couldn't do until I put the water in, and there they go. And I'm working with the forms I get, not trying to be too prescriptive. I find that's the joy of this kind of painting. It kind of takes on a kind of slightly abstract edge. Still not comfortable with the total value, so I'm just putting in some extra value around that key area in the far shoreline, and blocking that in with just a little bit more dark paint. Mainly blues, perhaps just a touch of green, but really although there are greens there, there's the predominance is blue and just an edge of greenness to the effect. I find that oftentimes if you use greens go way too green. So I'm making all my greens from blues and yellow there. But in this case, very, very much blue based. Here I'm actually putting in a false border, if you like. I'm actually sort of framing it sort of on the fly with paint. And I like to do this with studies because it gives it a kind of slightly more finished effect on the white sheet. And sometimes I'll actually, if I think about framing them, then perhaps I use this edge as part of the display, and then mat it a little bit further out, so it gives the effect of a kind of double matte. Of course, just sitting there, it kind of helps the image and helps me sort of make sure that I understand where things are going to go. And then finally, I'm just not quite happy with the way the water is working. Oh, and just a couple of highlights in those key leaves that are in those couple of trees. As you can see, I used a pair of scissors there. I would have used a knife if I had one, but I just picked up some scissors and quite quickly just scraped a little bit of the dry paint out to create those highlights. And once again, just finalizing the water, which you just wanted to make sure it looked like a water surface, and there were a couple of things which didn't quite look right. And now I'm just about happy with the result. Take a last look, and there we have a quick fall watercolor study.